Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. As always, a free way to support the channel is by leaving a thumbs up, by leaving a comment, by leaving 2 comments, or by subscribing if you have not already done so. It does help with Al Gore's rhythm. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. There's a lot of course, really weird news as always, the cryptocurrency space. At the moment, the cryptocurrency market appears as if it is trying to recover in price. The last 12, 13 hours were kind of weird for Bitcoin. They were like very choppy moves. It was like seemingly a very clear indication that we were about to shoot up in price, and then it slammed down immediately. But as of now, at the time of me making this video, it appears as if Bitcoin is on the move back up. There are a lot of other altcoins trying to also go up as well. They're up by 1 or 2, 3%. Some of the other lower coins that you see me roll my eyes about at the end of normal videos are by still around 12%, 15%, 25%, because, you know, logic, right? This one says Bitcoin consolidates, Ethereum still below 1,700 US dollars. Ripple price analysis, bull's eye upside break above 60 cents. It's kind of the same across the board. There was nothing really interesting about the price news. Everyone is expecting or eyeing a move upward, especially sometime this week. There have been a lot of things on Twitter, especially if you pay attention to Twitter at all. A lot of people writing and analysts talking about that within some time during the course of this week, we should see a major upswing in Bitcoin's price because that's the time, and all those other kinds of things. We've heard it before. We've seen it before. And all we have to do, I guess, is basically wait. Anyway, that's all the price news, as it were. I mean, it's also the beginning of the week, so you can't really expect too much. And without further ado, let's move on. In news that really made me, I don't want to say angry, that's a bit too strong. I was very annoyed that this keeps happening, and I want you to understand that this keeps happening because it's going to continue happening because they're doing it on purpose. Øystein Stray Spetalen, a Norwegian billionaire investor, has recently purchased Bitcoin as well as invested in the country's largest Bitcoin exchange just weeks after deeming Bitcoin a nonsense currency. Spetalen during the DNB Invest conference on the 18th of March has criticized Bitcoin for its excessive use of energy and even called it hostile. However, during a recenter interview with a local media house, Spetalen's tone on Bitcoin changed dramatically, especially after investing in the Norwegian crypto. Funny, you know, he hates it one day and then the next day after he's invested into it. Even funnier. So for those of you, I mean, you should have all seen this before, even just in normal life. This is how things work out. If you didn't know that, well, here we are. Here's a life lesson. This has been happening for a number of years now. It's about 6-7 years, maybe even longer. Just about every single investor who has ever said anything negative about Bitcoin now owns Bitcoin, or they own a cryptocurrency exchange, or they own, I slammed my hand into the table, or they own a gigantic portion of a mining facility, factory, whatever, what have you. The only 2 people who have stuck to their guns, if you will, are Warren Buffett and Munger. But they're also like 140, not to even make a joke, like they're, you know, I don't expect them to. Anyway, the point is, because even Peter Schiff also has Bitcoin. He said, first of all, he said that someone sent him the Bitcoin, and we know that he has it, and also his son has it, but his son is also a believer in the actual technology. The billionaire investor claimed during the interview that his stance changed on Bitcoin after he met with the founders of a cryptocurrency exchange he invested in, I'm sure. He said, when I also read that Kalej Inca Roca had gone into Bitcoin, it was quite obvious. Can't bear to see that Roca makes money and not me. I'd rather that answer than anything else. He got greedy. He saw that there was money to be made, and lo and behold, here's the actual tweet for it right here. Norwegian billionaire Øystein has bought Bitcoin and a stake in Norway's largest crypto exchange, according to local media. It's just frustrating because in some sort of way, when you are wealthy, people tend to listen to or follow your word a bit more than other people. We've seen what happens with Elon Musk, and we've seen what happens in the NFT space when a whole bunch of celebrities have poked their head into it and say, hey, get into this, you can make money. There was some news earlier, I definitely don't have it in here. What was it? Some type of sports cards with an S, are now being sold as NFTs, and I think one of them sold for like $354,000. Now, keep in mind, these sports collectibles that are also being launched out there are also not finite in price, like the NBA one. They're also like multiples. Anyway, I've gotten far off track. I just can't stand the whole NFT space right now. So the point is, this happens over and over all the time. But people within your country, like if you hear and you are respecting in some way this very rich person within your country, and you hear them say that Bitcoin is fake, it's a farce, it's a nonsense currency, don't touch it, people are going to lose money over it. We just had someone else last week. Who was the guy? He was like, what was it? He was like, anyone who touches Bitcoin is going to get burned, and they're going to be upset because it's going down to zero. And I can't remember the person because it happens every single week. The person also just invested in Bitcoin, and they were like, yeah, it is world currency, I like it a lot. And I'm like, what? Why you like it now? Like, what's the... So anyway, this is going to continue happening. I guess the news basically being more Bitcoin is now off the table. We can logically assume this man did not buy a Bitcoin. No, probably not 10, probably not 100, probably, speculating. Probably a couple thousand Bitcoin. Just saying. Anyway, very popular news. Here's the actual article in Norwegian. I can't read it, but it does look fancy. So if you can read it, then you understand exactly what's happening here. Anyway, very popular news because it happens all the time. Billionaire who recently asked for the European Union to ban Bitcoin. You know what that does to people's minds when someone hears that something that they could potentially invest in should be banned? It terrifies them. Remember all the news that we got during 2018? We're going to ban Bitcoin. Bitcoin's terrible. And now all these countries are also buying Bitcoin. Anyway, just make sure to keep focused on the goal, because we all know, all of us, even if you say you don't, we all know where this is heading, and we know exactly how big Bitcoin is going to get. And without further ado, let's moving on. Next up, in what that's crazy and super obvious news, Tesla and Bitcoin are far more connected than we realized. According to some analysts and financial institutions, Deutsche Bank, for example, has recently issued a statement saying that the next 2 to 3 years are likely to be a real turning point for the world's #1 digital currency by market cap, strictly because of the action Tesla has taken and it will take in the future. So for those of you who do not know, Tesla is buying Bitcoin. They bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin before, which shook and rattled the market. Everyone was like, what? I got to buy more Bitcoin. They are now accepting Bitcoin for Teslas, for cars. And they have announced that they're not converting any of that Bitcoin into fiat. They are keeping the Bitcoin for themselves. And when we had that news, it's been about 4 or 5 weeks at this point when that actually took place. Days after, we had news that there were like 15 companies just in Mexico who had at least come forward openly to say that they planned on buying Bitcoin as well. There were multiple all around the world. We started getting news about this person who owned a pizza shop. I think he put $1 million into Bitcoin. Some other person put $500,000 into it. Like people who were owning like small businesses. The idea was that this mega business put $1.5 billion into it, and everyone else was like, okay, as a smaller business, we should also do the same. And the fascinating part for me always is that this is the news that we get. We can assume if one pizza shop, if one clothing company, if one mom and pop shop somewhere put their money into it, that probably 18 other places in that same exact state, province, country, town probably did the exact same thing, maybe to a lower extent, but even something as big as, buying half a Bitcoin, that takes half a Bitcoin off the table. We were talking about before that realistically at this point, what it should be, air quoting, is if Bitcoin was equally distributed everyone on the planet would have 0.003. I think that's the number. However, we know that 4 million are lost and gone forever on old computers, got thrown away, whatever the actual case might be. There are millionaires and billionaires who own 1,000, 10,000, 15,000, 25,000, 35,000, 100,000, 200,000 Bitcoin. We know who they are. We know how the blah, 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 blah. You get the entire point. So as of right now, this is where we keep getting that number where if we had the news 2 weeks ago, that if you are holding 0.01 Bitcoin, that is to say 1 million Satoshis, you are far ahead of the curve. What's the news that we got 2 days ago? Something about, it was like Fortune 500 companies or these other big companies in about 3 years are going to be fighting each other just to own half a Bitcoin or to say that they own any Bitcoin at all. So that's kind of the idea. The relationship between Bitcoin and Tesla began last month when the electric car company owned and run by South African entrepreneur Elon Musk decided it would invest $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. From there, asset rose to 61,000. It was one of the largest institutional purchases of Bitcoin in history of the space that we know about. And now it seems like both Tesla and Bitcoin are inadvertently tied to each other. If Bitcoin goes up or down, Tesla shares are likely to follow suit, and vice versa. I think this is the actual, here's the actual article from Forbes discussing the article that we were just talking about as far as people showing, the potential price future for Bitcoin. It's not that I don't explicitly think that it'll rise or fall according to what Tesla's doing. I think that their movement into the cryptocurrency space has solidified Bitcoin as an asset class, as something that people are going to continue looking towards, because it's just Tesla who has come out openly to say that they did this. And I assume it's because Elon Musk is rather, the word isn't abrasive, but he's very like, if I did it, here it is, now listen to it. That's exactly kind of how he is, but other companies aren't as open and or forward. But I assume we will be hearing, we've already been hearing every single day, that more people have been buying Bitcoin. Anyway, that's the Deutsche Bank news, because Deutsche Bank just said all that stuff, that Bitcoin will grow because of Tesla. So, I'm pretty sure we know that Deutsche Bank is also into Bitcoin. I think they all are. All the major banks in some sort of way are either mining or they're buying Bitcoin, or they're in the space or have been talking about getting into the space through options or futures or anyway, that's the Tesla Deutsche Bank, almost said Pokemon news, and let's move on. Next up, ARK Invest CEO Cathie Wood believes that Bitcoin is set to surge, propelled by its finite supply and growing demand. In a new video, Wood remarks that Bitcoin's current market cap of around $1 trillion is small relative to its potential future valuation. She said, if we add all the potential demand relative to the limited supply, we come up with incredible numbers over the long term. We have just begun. $1 trillion is nothing compared to where this ultimately will be, just based off of current demand, just based off of your demand. You and your friends and the other 100 million people on the planet, not even a billion people, 100 million plus people who are buying up Bitcoin, fractions of Bitcoin, the institutions and the PayPal. We can also throw, it's logical to assume that Tesla is also buying more than a Bitcoin per day. Square, MicroStrategy, and Grayscale. We know that cumulatively, minimally. The point is 900 Bitcoin mined per day. We know that at least 3 of these companies are buying 2,700 per day. So that's the normal supply and demand. And it'll only increase as more people continue getting into the market because, logic. The ARK Invest CEO points out that various established companies are adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets as evidence of increasing demand. We also had news 2 days ago as well. It happened twice. It was somebody in New York and somebody in somewhere else that was in New York who basically were like, yeah, governments are buying Bitcoin now. They're adding it to their sovereign funds and they're adding it to so-and-so. So we also know that that's happening, but there's still going to be people who are skeptical on Bitcoin, not understanding exactly what's taking place. She said, I think the most surprising development recently and we didn't expect it when we wrote our institutional report, is that companies are now diversifying their cash with Bitcoin. We've seen Square do this, Tesla do it. MicroStrategy is defining its business around it now. Wood asserts that Bitcoin is the first new asset class in about half a millennium, and that its low correlation to other assets makes it attractive to investors. She said the correlation of returns to other asset classes is extremely low. In fact, according to our analysis, the highest correlation is to real estate at 0.34, and so it's what every other asset allocator seeks, non-correlated assets. We do believe that this is the first new asset class, truly new asset class, since the 1600s, since equities. I don't want to rush time. I would like to remain this age forever. But gosh darn it if I'm not interested to see where Bitcoin is going to be in 5 years. I think I said that exact same phrase 2 or 3 years ago when we were all looking at Bitcoin and it was around 4,300 and we're like crossing our fingers as strong as possible, hoping that the market will just, react to logic at that time. The amount of energy flowing around this space, the amount of money being pushed into this space, the amount of billionaires, I am slightly terrified of all the Bitcoin being absorbed by just the richest people on the planet. And I think that's where we're heading, just to be completely honest with you. But I still remain hopeful. What's that? No, never mind. I thought it was like a movie. Maybe it's just in my mind. Like when you're really hopeful for something and then you get to the end of the line and you're like, oh, didn't happen. I am happy that thus far we know that there's an increased amount of Bitcoin adoption overall. We keep getting Bitcoin adoption news from South America, from Africa, from Southeast Asia, from other countries that really need it. I just wish that would continue. I hope that it does continue. Anyway, Cathie Wood is not the first person to say this. We get this kind of news like every 2.5 days, roughly around that time frame. Basically about supply and demand and where the price is going to go. Anyway, that's the weird Bitcoin machine on the TV screen news. And let's move on. Yes, this is happening. We know that this is happening. And people should learn more about it so that they can prepare accordingly. According to new reports, inflation fears are already gripping more than half of the American population. In a research study conducted by Civic Study, it was discovered that residents of the United States are bracing themselves for the inflation that could rattle the country in the future. Inflation is already here, and we're seeing it across all asset classes. We're seeing people pushing their money, trying to find a way to avoid it, but there's no real avoiding it at this point anymore. We all know that it's here. I told you before that people are going into supermarkets in any basic store and they're seeing that the cost of things are already rising. It may not be an astronomical rise, but things are still going up by 25, 30, 45 cents, maybe even $1. And part of the problem is that a lot of people are currently in an economic situation where that extra 25 cents across, 50 items that they have to buy to be able to eat over the course of the week, it's not too nice. According to the report, in a survey of more than 2,600 people, 77% said that they were at least somewhat concerned about inflation. Following the market pattern from last year, this means there is more room for Bitcoin to increase in value as buying pressure is expected to increase. I'm actually shocked. Like if I could let you into my mind to let you understand how shocked that I am that Bitcoin has any day that's in the red. I expect maybe over the course of a 24-hour period, maybe we have like a 0.3% drop, not even a full entire percent. It is blatantly obvious that the world is in a very different place. You remember the year 2000? That's also a bad example. I laughed the other day. I was watching some TV show. First of all, I like old TV shows, like from the 80s and 90s. And I was watching something from around like the late 80s, and they were like, oh man, you can't do that because, the country's in a recession. And I was like, oh yeah, there was a recession around that because of 87. And then I watched something else from the 90s and they were like, can't do that because, we're in a recession. I was like, yeah, there was a recession at that. I think the world has perpetually just been in a very long recession think about it. It happened in the late 80s, happened in the early 90s, happened in the mid 90s, happened in 2000 when the dot-com bubble burst. We were in a recession because of what happened a year later. You must remember what happened. We were in a recession around 2003, 4. I think 2005 and 6 and 7 were like the hype years when all the assets were kind of rising and everyone's like, real estate, real estate, real estate. 2008, the bubble burst. We were in a recession until around 2013, 2014, and now we're also in a mega hype bubble cycle for real estate and all these other assets because the problem was never fixed before. Now the problem has only gotten worse because they keep printing more money. So yes, inflation is definitely here. It is. I think it will take. I don't even think it's going to take that long. I was going to say it's going to take some time to see the effects of it. I give it 2 years to see like the actual brutal effects. We just had news that the $1.9 trillion stimulus checks went out. And then a day later, we had news allegedly, so saith the news, that they're already working on a $3 trillion stimulus. Like you Google it, like type in the words 3 trillion and you'll definitely find it. What are the other things they have? Basically, they were talking to young people between the ages of 35 and 54 as well. And it says, although the fears are predominantly political, they're not, though. It's economic. It's numbers. Like, we know that the numbers are okay. The most likely to be affected are workers who have had work for fewer hours since 19, and their pay has also reduced significantly. It's very hard hitting. If people couldn't afford things before, imagine if, when you don't have a job. Imagine getting a job or a part-time job. Have you seen the amount of people like in the gig economy who have increased in the last year? It's really crazy. I'm getting so many recommendations on YouTube now from, what's it called? Like channels of people who are like working for Uber Eats or this company, and they're like riding on their, almost said motor bicycles through cities and delivering and stuff like that. It's like, it's a very big, trend now to have on YouTube, but it also affects them. It affects everyone, of course, but this rapid rise in inflation is not going to end well for 90% of the people on the planet. It's not. Oh boy. Here's the actual, it's like an AI thing on the side. It says more than 75% of U.S. adults express concerns about inflation. Here are the actual graphs right here for those of you who are wondering what the actual numbers were. And this one I think is also the exact same thing. Survey shows 77. Survey shows 77% of Americans are concerned about rising inflation. Prices for goods are soaring. It's crazy. It's really crazy to be living through all of this. It's kind of stuff, I'll be honest, it's kind of stuff that you either hear about in movies or in TV shows, or you hear about is happening in some other country that's not yours. So it's very wild to see this all taking place. We are going to continue to see inflation. First of all, we've had inflation since the 70s, and I guess even more so before then, but it was more gold pegged. We are going to see an incredible increase in the amount of countries and people and millionaires and billionaires and thousandaires who are going to be buying up fragments of Bitcoin in an effort to try and get away from it. This is why I said, you may not think so, but you are very ahead of the curve. Even just understanding what inflation is, a lot of people don't get it. And I think that they also don't want to get it. It said it also somewhere within the survey as well. I don't know where the exact wording is at this point. But they were discussing, how concerned are you right now about inflation in the U.S.? 17% said not at all concerned. Can you imagine not being, like, there's a meteor falling towards the planet and you're not concerned at all? It'll take care of itself. It's because they probably don't understand exactly what inflation is. Somewhat concerned are people who probably heard at some point that inflation was a thing. They understand that the cost of goods goes up. It may be a keyword in their head. If you say it to them, then you go, oh, inflation sounds scary. I'm kind of concerned about it, not really understanding exactly what's about to take place. Anyway, that's the inflation news. We are going to... I don't expect at this point that we are ever not going to have inflation news in the cryptocurrency space. I think at some point it'll get really crazy, kind of scary, if you will. We're going to start hearing more news reports about it. Anyway, I'll move on from this topic because I can go on forever about it. Here's another article from BNN Bloomberg. It says, Inflation Nation, Americans furiously Googling rising costs, because I assume they're going to the supermarket, seeing things are expensiver, and they're going, hey, why is this more expensive? So I hope that everyone gets it. And I also directly and indirectly hope that they figure out that cryptocurrencies could potentially be an option for their portfolio. And let's move on. And also, this was news as well. It's nearly 11 years since the day when Laszlo Hanyecz, a programmer from Florida, famously purchased two pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. Oh my gosh. That hurts to look at. He purchased two pizzas, what would now be worth $530 million today. I would hate myself. Do you understand how what would you do? I think I would just sit in the corner and just cry all day. I'd be void of tears within my body because I'd just be dried up. 500. I hope those were the best pizzas. I hope they had gold on them. Nah, not even that. Now Bitcoin is once again being used for a pizza-related transaction. I guess the pizza had to do with the pizza. But this time around, it's a pizza store that is being sold for Bitcoin rather than a couple of Papa John's pies. That was a weird sentence. Situated in Santa Monica, Bravo Pizza has been sold by its owner, Matt and Kara Miller, for an undisclosed sum of Bitcoin. I would not tell anybody. But yeah, we sold it. For what? Oh, he gave us gold. Yeah, gold. And he's quickly run away down the street. Who for the past several years have been the manager of the restaurant. And there's a chart of Bitcoin's price. Sure, why not? According to Benavides, Bitcoin has been a common interest between him and Matt, and the two of them often talked about the cryptocurrency. Wonderful. For Matt, it's the future, centralized banking, money. It happens April 1st. The Millers believe Bravo Pizza being sold for Bitcoin will be a groundbreaking thing for the Central Coast community. However, it might not be the first brick and mortar store to change hands for crypto. Earlier this year, two restaurants went on sale in New York, with both their owners putting a price tag of 25 Bitcoin or 800 Ether for both. You know, it was really funny. I saw the numbers and I was like, that's not a lot of money. And I realized that Bitcoin isn't $1,000. I was like, $25,000 for a restaurant? I was like, in New York? That sounds really... And then you go, oh, 800 Ether. Ether's near $2,000 right now. So that's around $1.6 million. And you go, oh, New York. And then it kind of all comes back to you and makes sense. Yeah. So this was also news. Quite popular, if you will. I think the connection to pizza was there. So they were like, let me make an article about pizza. This was also... It wasn't all over the place, but it was in a lot more places than I would have assumed that it would have been for pizza. Which is delicious. But sure. Anyway, so I guess that's more Bitcoin off the table. I'm not really sure what words I should be using there. That's the pizza news. And let's move on. And to finish things off, in news that is also news, but we know it's going to fail, Caribbean island Jamaica has announced its plans to pilot a central bank digital currency this May, as it has been working with an extensive procurement process. That sounds fancy. The country's central bank has chosen a technology provider to help with the central bank digital currency solution. The startup the bank found dubbed E-Currency Mint Incorporated. Wow, what a name. E-Currency Mint Incorporated stems from the Bank of Jamaica's fintech regulatory sandbox. E-Mint currency will also be the provider when the national central bank digital currency rollout begins in early next year. The central bank's announcement notes the central bank digital currency pilot will be tested starting in May and will go through until the end of December 2021. According to their notice, the central bank digital currency will work alongside paper notes and the Jamaican coinage. The central bank noted e-currency mint is a global thought leader and pioneer of hardware, software, and cryptographic security protocols, technology, and enabling central banks to issue, distribute, and supervise the central bank digital. I don't have to read anymore because there's a lot. The article just kind of keeps going. This happens quite often. We often get news like this every single day. Every country is working on a central bank digital currency. We know that they are. There's no real discussion about it anymore. You could have, faked not knowing sometime last year when every country was like, central bank, what? We're not making that. And they all said the exact same thing. There's no need for it. We're not going to make it. Around the same exact time when they were saying that Bitcoin was not a threat and all this other stuff. And then we got news earlier, it was like 3 weeks ago, that Bitcoin is now too big to be ignored. So I assume they're trying not to ignore it. And they're just making these central bank digital currencies. We know that they're not going to make it. We know that they're going to fail. I don't know if they know it, but I think it's kind of like, they continue printing money and devaluing their own currencies. So of course they're going to think that creating a digital version of their stuff that they already have is going to work in some sort of way. It's only going to cause more people to actually get into Bitcoin, which is going to be quite fascinating. Even on that exact same note, we haven't heard any news about Libra. Isn't that weird? Maybe it's because of everything that's been. I mean, it's been a long year, if I can say that. I think at the beginning of this year they should have launched, and I think by April was the time frame when they planned on pushing out all their stable coins. And anyway, here's the actual. I want to say press announcement. Okay, yeah. Press release. It looks a little interesting, but here's the PDF for it. DOGE announces central bank digital currency provider. Fantastic. Oh gosh, here we go. Oh boy. Here we go. Wait for it. Hold on. Almost there. Wait. There we go. Found it. It wasn't on the home screen. Anyway, that's the Jamaica news. Every day there's a new country who comes forward talking about it. They're all going to do it, and they're all not going to be successful because it's just the same thing but digital. As always, a very big thank you to my Patreon supporters: Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Captain something in the Z-Way Lay. I don't know what that means. Crypto Black Sheep, AJ Cut 5, Speedy 655, and Carlos was like, Mobarazzi, Jojo Shaw Show, VB Nerd 21, Miguel Grolay, Lauren De Silva, Quoted, Biddy, Bare Bones Mining, Troy Allgood, Space Case, Need a Miracle, Crypto Stahl, Pat Turn Noster, Conan Don't Skip Leg Day, Snacky Chan, Tolek Banan, Auspicious, Agile, and Blockchain. I'm just bad with. I rolled out of bed. You ever had one of those days where you just did not get, I laid in bed with my eyes closed like a vampire, just hoping that I would fall back to sleep, and it did not happen. So I'm like awake sleep. If that kind of, I'm just tired. I'm so tired right now. Navarro Williams, David James, Attila the Han, Yasha Harari, Oscar Maldonado, Utopia 569, Moonman High, XRP, Joshua Vineyard, Martin Stoyer, Nostromo, John Sarson, The Animal Reader, A Bibliophobia, Todd Mullis, Adam Graysick, Moher Maroni, Master Ventures in Thailand, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Bankroll Network, Crypto Artist, Cold E3D, Damien Setsuna, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller, Hitch Test Every Day, and Kyle Skips Leg Day. Yes to Crypto, Bodie McBoatface, Anytime Fitness, Monk's Corner Staff, Arfmedic17, Bake Me a Cake, Tigara Machonisa, On Crypto with Lionel, Crayola Michelle, URL, and Bolero Bastos. Thank you all. Oh my gosh, my eyes. Thank you all very, very much for your support. I was slowly falling asleep. Thank you all very, very much for your support. Thank you to all the new Patreon members. Thank you to everyone who is a member of the channel. Thank you to everyone who has left a thumbs up, who has left a comment, multiple comments. I feel like my battery is near zero. How did that happen? I had energy 8 minutes ago. Bitcoin currently is at $56,130. See, here's the thing. Here's the movement up, and then the movement down, and then another movement up, and then a movement down. So there's no real direction as to where all this is going, at least at the moment. Ethereum is down by 0.35%. Binance coin is Binance coining and is still the number 3 coin. Cardano's up by 0.09%. Polkadot is up by, turning red. Polkadot is up by 2.8%. Litecoin is up by 4.5%. Theta is up by, Theta is up by 8.5%. Clay is up by 18%. Clay. That is Klay. Not Bitcoin, but Clay. Lumens, I have to sneeze. Lumens is up by 4%. Anything else crazy? Solana's up by 4. Kusama's up by 12. Aave's up by 1. Monero's up by 7. Cosmos is up by 2. Anything else crazy? No, probably not. Tezos is up by 5.8%. Oh, here we go. Hedera bar, H bar, Hashgraph bar is up by 16.68%. Pancake is up by 2.6%. Theta Fuel is up by 6% because why? There's Theta and there has to be fuel for it. That makes a lot of sense. The Graph is up by 13%. And Bridge Oracle is up by 5.2%. Not being cynical, just waiting for logic. I do hope you all enjoyed. I do hope you all are continued to have. I hope that you have a great Monday, a great week. I hope that whatever you've been anxious about works out for you in your favor. And I hope that you find a Bitcoin in the street, like an actual Bitcoin. Like you pick it up and then it goes into your phone. And I'm going to stop talking because it just got really weird. Thank you all once again for watching or hope you find a Bitcoin in the street. Thank you once again for watching or listening. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.